provocations from the north. The Hermit Kingdom says now that it is finalizing plans to launch 4 missiles into the waters off the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam by the middle of the month, they say, when it would then await a green light from the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. The new threats come a day after President Trump promised, quote, fire and fury for the North if it refuses to stand down. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis issued a stern warning of his own yesterday, calling on Pyongyang to, quote, cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of its regime and the destruction of its people, end quote. Bottom line. For his part, the governor of Guam says he appreciates the tough talk coming out of the Trump administration.
As far as I'm concerned, as an American citizen, I want a president that says that if any nation such as North Korea attacks Guam, attacks Honolulu, attacks the West Coast, that they will be met with hell and fury.
Yeah, and I think when the president first said that, Pete Hegseth, there was obviously lots of cries from the mainstream media. What did people expect this president to do? I mean, don't you want the president of America to be tough on...
Of course. Cries from the mainstream media and the foreign policy establishment on both the left and right that have gotten North Korea wrong, they got Iran wrong, all these sanctions, diplomacy, which are supposed to get us away from bombs, have led us to bombs in every scenario. There's a video circulating online, you've probably seen it, of Trump 20 years ago.
That's right.
Talking about the fact that, hey, when you appease, they're eventually, this is what they want and they're going to get it. The longer we wait, the worse it gets in any scenario. I think this team understands that. This has been handed in their lap. They have to act now. It's going to be, they're talking about talks. They're talking to China. They're talking about sanctions. The UN vote was important, 15-0. It shows China is serious. But none of that is going to be enough, especially in light of the news reports that now North Korea has a miniaturized nuclear weapon that could be loaded onto an ICBM. They've known that for weeks. We just learned that from the Washington Post yesterday. Yeah. This is part of their calculation. There are 200,000 citizens in Guam, American citizens. But that, if they were truly going to nuke us or strike us, it wouldn't be Guam. They'd go for something bigger than that. That's a bit of a de-escalation, if you will.
Yeah, why Guam? Just because it's the closest?
It's close. It's, maybe they know that maybe it's part of their target set. Ultimately, though,
and it's a U.S. territory.
And it's U.S. territory. Sure. There are citizens there, but this is something, an action is going to have to be taken by the U.S.
I mean, I like to think that Kim Jong-un knows that getting into an escalation with the United States is extremely, there's no likelihood that he's going to win, and the United States is an enormous power. But he's a really unpredictable leader. It's hard. I can't imagine that he thinks that he would be successful if he were to take us on, but he might not be operating in the same sort of realm of reality that the rest of us are.
And this is an instance where President Trump's unpredictability works to his advantage and our advantage. And can anybody be, if you step back and listen to the rhetoric that the left and the media got so enraged about, but you also listen to the message from the other members of his administration, I think that they definitely have a strategy. They're on board, even if you don't have Secretary of State Tillerson using the exact same language. He's not talking about, like, as Nikki Haley, your interview on Sunday, he's not talking about regime change. But Trump using that language is very harkens back to the communist rhetoric that
they
people
understand it.
That people forget.
That's
the rhetoric from a Kim Jong-un. So I think that there might be, it seems like that there is definitely a method to the language.
But I wonder how
absolutely.
I wonder how Trump is going to respond, though, because he's not somebody who takes well to personal insults. I mean, the kind of language that the North Koreans are using right now, he's a guy bereft of reason. I mean,
I also don't like the suggestion that he's going to read a headline of what Kim Jong-un said and say, I'm personally offended, therefore I'm going to launch nukes. I mean, this is a guy that looks at the foreign policy establishment in this country, the Council on Foreign Relations crowd, the chattering class that says, more sanctions, a little bit here, maybe talks. It doesn't work with a tin pot dictator who believes his regime's preservation is based on nuclear weapons that can be delivered to our shores. Yeah. You either stop it or you don't.
That is so
and that's
well
the
said.
moment that we're at.
You're absolutely right. That video of Donald Trump 20 years ago talking to Tim Russert was really extraordinary. Because he said exactly that. He said, they better do something now, otherwise it will be with us later. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Same with Iran. Wait, it's a preview of Iran.
Yeah.
This Iran deal is gifting them weapons that a president down the line is going to have to deal with the fact that they're pointing them at Israel, and we have no good options. Yeah. Deal with it now, or it's only going to get worse. Yeah,